You mentioned multifamily, and recently I've even learned of virtual family office. For those that are not familiar with the whole family office space, like how are these things differ? There are certain sort of net worths for them to fall under into like when they decide to go multifamily versus single family and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a sliding scale a little bit. So if you look at one end of the scale, you've got your wealth manager, right? So there's the independent RIA, and then it gets into these wealth management firms that do more estate planning for you. They do trust formation. Then that kind of gets bigger and bigger, and that branches into the multifamily office space, right? Where they're doing the estate planning for you, they're doing wealth management, they're doing your public equities trading, and then they can present to you these private deals as well. And
Okay.
then they might employ a fractional CFO or have a CFO in office for your family in particular that manages your books. And then you continue down the scale. There's these groups that are in the middle. There's the multifamily office that are established. Legacy Knight, I think, is close to you. I think they're up in Dallas, actually, Tim, but they have 1,000 families that use Legacy Night. Then you get to the 4 or 5 families that have come together and they're saying, hey, we're friends. Maybe they were business partners in the past. Maybe they're just friends from life, but they decide we're going to start an entity and we're going to employ 2, 3, 4, 12 people. And we're just going to start our own little shop in house. And then you move into the mega family office, right? The big guys who they will employ their own staff just for their one family. That's what Bezos has done. That's what some of these really, the Walton family, they've got tens, upwards of 100 people on staff just managing their assets for them. So that's the scale of how it works.
I see. Very interesting. Yeah. Let's switch gear a little bit to retail now. The kind of money that a lot of us are used to. Through your years of raising money, what are some of the top major marketing channels or ways that you have found to work well for you to raise retail money?
Yeah, it's changed over time. And that's the pros and cons of marketing is that the tactics that you used yesterday aren't necessarily going to work today, but they worked yesterday and that was great. So we are always adapting and changing. I've certainly seen that over the past 10 years. There was a time that actually, let's go way back to when I first started raising capital. It was 506Bs. This was right after the Jobs Act. We could all raise capital now through through those provisions, the 506 provisions, and it was word of mouth through those 506Bs. It was doing educational webinars. It was all that stuff. Now that stuff really still works to a point. I love the webinar. I love the email drip campaign. We are still doing all of that. I love going to conferences and meeting people at conferences and speaking and doing panels. Like that stuff still works. And there's almost nothing that is as much of a shortcut sometimes to capital than actually shaking someone's hand, sitting down and having a conversation.
Yeah.
That sometimes just cuts through it all. When you're talking about social media, right? Advertising on Meta, so you're on your Facebook, Instagram account, when you're doing podcasting, when you're on YouTube, when you're doing all these things, it takes a little while to warm people up, right? And you
Yeah.
got to create what we would call top of funnel content, educational content to bring people in, to warm them up to you and really get them to trust you. So that stuff still works. We do that. We love that on the retail side. But I'll tell you, my favorite thing to do is steal investors from other people. I'll say it that way. And one way you can do that, I said there's no silver bullets before, but this is maybe the closest thing to a shortcut that I've ever known, which is when you can swap podcasts with people and when you can go and sit with, interact with someone else's community where they have done the work to
Yeah.
build trust already. And it's a little bit of this for that. It's quid pro quo, right? Where maybe they want to be on your podcast and you can kind of exchange. But the point I think is when my partner Matt or I go on these other podcasts, here's a watering hole, right? Where people are congregating that maybe we have not interacted with on social media yet. They haven't seen our content and someone else has already done the hard work to build trust with these people. These people are hyper engaged, they're a hyper engaged audience, and we can come in and ride on that trust a little bit, make our case, build those relationships ourselves. That's the closest thing to a shortcut that I've ever seen. And so that has been a very effective tool and very effective strategy for us there. These days, I still like doing these dinners, and I don't know if it's where I'm at in life or maybe I'm a little bored with some of the social media stuff, but I love hosting an investor dinner and telling our investors, hey, please, we would love for you to bring 2 or 3 friends, right? Whether they're accredited right now or not, or they're on their way to being accredited. We want to interact with as many people as possible. We just want to have interesting conversations and build relationships. And coming from that angle, I'll tell you, Tim, the ways that, as far as the money that we spend on marketing, the most bang for our buck is going on other people's podcasts and hyper focused dinners, right? There's a way to do dinners where you're just blowing
Mm,
money, but hyper focused dinners where you're inviting people to bring someone else and you're
mm.
really pushing on that referral button. Those have been the best bang for our buck. A lot of work, a lot of time, most bang for our buck.
Yeah, that's really good. So with your investor dinner, you invite existing investors and asking them for referrals. You don't, do you do a marketing campaign in that local city to also invite like new potential
Yeah.
investors there as well?
Great question. Yes. So it's all about, we call it pulling every lever every day is the shorthand in house. So will call our investors. Say it's someone mentioned San Diego before. I love going to San Diego. We've got a lot of great investors there. So I'll call all my investors in San Diego. Hey, I'm doing a dinner on the 12th. Would love for you to be there. Would you consider inviting 2 or 3 friends? In fact, if you have 5 friends that want to come, we'd buy them dinner. That's great. We just want to have this genuine, authentic interaction, and we'll give an update on the funds. It's not going to be a super
Mm,
organized pitch. We'll just give a short update. We'll answer questions. So we invite those people. We'll do meta ads, right? We'll geofence a particular area, accredited investor dinner, and people can sign up and come to that dinner. Generally, that actually is, if you want to get into the practicals of it, doing that actually has worked well for us, and it's pretty affordable, we would say. I used to do mailers, individual mailers to people, and that was just really expensive. I was spending
yeah,
8, 10 grand on mailers,
easy. Yep.
and now it's $3 a head basically on Meta, 325.
$3 is good. That's really
It's
good.
yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
My local networking, I think I'm paying like $10. So you're $3 even better.
It depends on the market, right? Yeah, sometimes you go to places like Houston, it can be more expensive than Omaha, Nebraska. But sometimes those like secondary and tertiary markets, I love going to. We've had
That's
so
true.
much success in Nebraska and Iowa, just these really strange standout places. But it's a bunch of guys they're manufacturing guys. They got a bunch of cash. They're open to real estate. They like real estate a lot. They're skeptical of the stock market. Those have been good markets for us. Yeah, it's a great strategy. We really like those dinners. And it's
That's
fun.
really good. Yeah, I like that. And you brought up something that, I there was another gentleman I interviewed. I've known him for a long time, but I've interviewed him not too long ago. His fund is 150 something $1 million fund, and half of that comes from a small town. And yes,
Yeah,
and I talked to his assistant, and she's, yeah, almost everybody in town invests in this fund. I was like, wow, because your word of
great.
mouth goes really fast in a small town like that, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, and they're looking for a trusted person, and so it's easy for you to win trust in a small town. And I'm curious because she lives in that small town. The founder of the fund does not. So I'm curious if like most of the investors come from her network.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. A lot of time we forget about how powerful those small markets could be, because yeah, we're less competition and it's so much easier to win trust. Like they're forgotten.
yeah,
We all chase the big markets, and so those small markets get forgotten. Talking about meta ads, I do see y'all's meta ads quite a bit on my feed. I'm curious as are you the one managing any ads? You mentioned all of that. Okay. Can you give
yes.
us insights into what it's costing you to generate retail investors off of Meta?
Yeah. So we've got a couple different things running, right? So
Okay.
we see this differently. So we've got a very top of funnel, the state of affordability in the US. So we've got the state of affordability, state of the union affordable housing. That's what the piece is called, right? So people can download that piece. There's a video series that goes along with that. We've got a investing in manufactured housing, an institutional investor's guide, right? So these are questions that we compiled as just a PDF of 50 questions that these institutions that we've worked with, it's like their questions that they ask, and people can just download it.
Mm,
And I love when people download that because I like to answer those questions. We've got some really good responses. And honestly, we've been beaten up over the years to have good protocol and processes in place here. And I like when people take that sheet and they go and ask other sponsors that maybe aren't are doing it as well. And I think that makes us look really good. And then we have our kind of just general webinar for Fund 4 playing, right? So
mm.
very top of funnel, a little bit lower, a little bit lower. On average, we are spending on a good month on Meta for someone who's actually coming through 30 to 40 bucks. I think generally,
Is that
yeah,
a
but
is that per appointment?
yeah, that's per appointment.
That's good.
That has gone up to 60, 70 bucks
Still good.
over.
Okay.
Yep, yep. So that's where we're at there. We've started doing LinkedIn lately. This is a newer bout for us over the past handful of months. LinkedIn's quite a bit cheaper and our engagement's a little bit higher. So still trying to figure
Mm,
out, Tim, honestly, if that's because we're new to the space, to LinkedIn and the algorithm is promoting us, or if it's actually cheaper on LinkedIn, or what's going on there, or if our investment profile is matching the
yeah.
people who are spending the majority of their time on LinkedIn over Meta.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's probably the latter. Because usually I normally hear that LinkedIn is more expensive. But yeah, if you're getting cheaper, you're probably dialing into the right avatar. That's
Yes.
good. Wow, this has been an amazing conversation interview. We've dived into a lot of different aspects of capital raising. Really appreciate you, Ben, for being so generous with your knowledge and your wisdom there. For those that want to reach out to you, learn more about you, about Crystal View Capital, the assets you do, this we have quite a bit of people on here that are fund of funds, fund managers doing fund of funds. I assume you guys do partner with fund managers as well. Is that correct?
We do. Yeah, we do. You can find out more about that. We've got a devoted page on our website, crystalviewcapital.com. We also, for anyone who's associated with the Hero Alliance, we've got preferred terms for anyone who wants to raise some capital and partner with us.